Welcome everyone to today's midnight training session. This is part of our 6.5 training session series and covers our pricing system. Today's session will be roughly 45 minutes long and will cover various components of pricing. Because this is a longer session, we'll be focusing on topics in groups, and I'll segment them out as effectively as possible. Today's focus of pricing will include areas of topic discussions such as setting up general admin level pricing for your services, setting up pricing wizards for a more detailed usage of pricing, setting up the volume discounts as well within the admin level, taking a look at customer specific pricing, which includes both having different rates and applications of wizard, and finally, the contract-specific level of pricing, which is a level of pricing within customer pricing. Do note that there is the print estimating system. That is its own level of pricing and has dedicated training sessions that cover it and its respective modules accordingly. If you wish to gain more information on how to integrate our print estimating system into your pricing workflow, do check out one of those videos. So without further ado, let's jump into Midnight and take a closer look at Midnight's pricing. To start off, any service that exists within your Midnight is going to be available under its respective tab or service type as we define them within your system. Those service types are the deciding factor in terms of where your services belong, where they appear, and how they are able to interact with others. One other component about service types is that as you integrate them into your system, you can set them up to appear in your estimates and orders, but also on your scheduling boards, such as your dynamic job board, and on your shop floor time entry system. To access your service types, which are the beginning factor of anything service related, note that these can be altered, created, adjusted, or modified within your admin menu. Sorry about that. By going into your service type submenu. In here, you'll see the various department tabs that you yourself as a user are familiar with. In my sample site here, these may be different from what you have, but of note, you do want to take advantage of the name, as this is what your service types or departments will be called. And the sort determines the order in which that you see these from left to right on both the dynamic job board and your estimate and order screens. We won't look too much at these other options as they relate to scheduling and production, and those aren't part of today's topic, but do know that this is where you control their behavior. If we take a look at one of our estimates, we'll be able to see that marketing and data will be the first two, and so on and so forth, going down for all of our active sales service types, all the way to buyout, which is our final in this case. You'll also notice that this expected quantity for my estimate has been already implemented. If you create a new estimate or if you create a new order, you can define your expected quantity. And when you're adding in a service, the expected quantity is referenced for the quantity that gets loaded in for the service upon selection. One such use case would be if we were to create a new estimate or create a new order, set up for a specific customer, and then punch in a quantity of, say, 2,000. We have two different levels of interaction that can occur with our services based on that quantity. The first is that if you select a service that has a unit price or per piece sale price of less than $1, the quantity will default to what you have as the expected quantity. If you were to select one that has a price greater than $1, then the price will default to that value and the quantity will set itself to 1. One example here would be if we were to use a creative service that has a higher than normal price. We can see here that the quantity defaults to 1. But if we were to go to a department such as print, select one of our services, say photocopies, you can see how the price here is just under 5 cents. This unit price has added itself accordingly, and the quantity has adjusted itself to reference the expected quantity here. As you add your services, you'll notice that your quantities will continue to either reference that number 1 or whatever the expected quantity is. Continuing in your workflow, though, you may need to change your quantities for one reason or another. Perhaps you're copying an estimate or order to create a new one by referencing an old one, or perhaps you entered a quantity that's simply not correct and you need to just get a new quantity in. You go into the Details tab and use the Update Quantity feature. You can change your quantity and click the Update button. This will change the quantity for all items that have the expected quantity set to this, in this case 2,000, and replace them with this, the 1,500. Additionally, you're given a pop-up. This is an important one to read. It asks if you want to recalculate your unit prices. Clicking yes will look for your services to have any special behavior such as volume-specific pricing at specific quantity breaks. And if you click yes, it will adjust them. If you click no, then the unit price will be retained. The only thing that will change is the quantity and thus the extended price. And if you cancel, it negates your operation here and returns you back to your quantity, in this case of 2,000. I'll click yes here, simply to get the process complete. We'll see our expected quantity has been updated. And under our print tab, our 2,000 has been updated to 1,500. Now, as far as service pricing goes, we've identified how to update our quantities and how they relate to the pricing. The services themselves can have various actions that define what their price is or remains at. You'll see that there are actions listed for several of my services here, some of which that say print calculator, some of which say wizard, and some that say no action. If a service has an action instead of no action, then you'll know that when you select it, nothing happens. The service is simply loaded in, the quantity is pulled, and the extended price is totaled. If you have a service that has a command action of launching a wizard, this brings up a series of choices that can be selected in sequence. These will update the unit price and create a new unit price that is utilized within calculations. One such example would be if you were to have a printing service, in this case one on my HP Indigo press. You'll see in this case we have 27.6 cents. As you make your changes to your service, you'll see that the price here will change. These different options can be created in the admin menu and given different levels of pricing to change. They can also be given a cost, so that way your job costing reports can convey information with a bit more accuracy. And also the run rate can be changed, so that way your production and workflow team will have a better understanding of what work needs to be done and how that impacts their ability to complete the tasks over a period of time. As the service has everything implemented, you'll be able to see in the details that the base price of the service calculates itself out to the new value based on the different wizard options. After that, a discount is observed if the service has a volume-based discount. And then the official unit price is loaded in, multiplied by the quantity to give you your grand extended price. The print calculator will launch our print calculator and generate that pricing system. But again, that is not a topic for today's discussion. And do note that we do have 3 print calculator actions. We have 2 types of wide format print calculator that accommodate for canvas, vehicle wraps, etc. And our standard print calculator, which you see here, which references operations, say, related to books, business cards, the like. Now from the screen, there are a few other things we can tell. Number 1, that there is a discount, and number 2, that there's a setup fee. The discount and setup fee can be defined on the service itself within the admin menu. A discount is a volume-based discount that kicks into effect as long as a certain quantity has been reached. And a setup fee is a flat fee that is added into the extended price and then reverse calculated into the unit price based on the quantity. These can operate in tandem with the wizards or the no action services, but not the print calculator, as they have their own commands that accommodate for discounts. One other thing to be aware of is that if you do need to get back into a wizard to make a change, within the details of the service, you can click the wizard magic wand icon next to the service code. This brings up the wizard again and allows you to create a newly adjusted service based on the options that you need to pick. You'll see that there are many services that can include wizards and some of which that may not, depending on your workflow. One common case of using wizards is related to wanting to have, say, one specific service for folding or cutting. You may have 4 or 5 or 6 or more different types of work that you can do related to folding, inserting, cutting. The simplest I can think of is that with an inserting service, you may have a variety of pieces that you're inserting into your envelopes. You may have a base price for doing one single insert and then a upcharge for having more than one, such as 2, 3, 4, etc. Having a wizard allows you to not need one service to pick within this list per count. So there's no inserting 2 pieces, inserting 3 pieces, etc. service. All the available options are consolidated within the wizard here. In this case, picking the envelope and the count of inserts. You can set up your services to operate in the way described before, but it does increase the amount of services in this list and does make things sometimes a little harder to look for. Now, one last thing to look at within an estimate screen is the multiple quantities tab. This is just a brief look. We'll be covering this more in our estimates training, but you can set up multiple quantities within one estimate to provide documentation out to your client. The quantities that you set in here will calculate a new line item or total pricing for each service associated, and they can be viewed within this edit pop-out. In here, all of these are calculated based on the volume price breaks and such, based on the quantity that is listed here. And do note that these quantities can be changed, and you can have logic updated. So that way there can be recalculations based on other quantity breaks that ignore the multi-quantities base quantity estimate. Now we've taken a look at some of the general fundamentals of the general services. We'll take a look at how they reference themselves in the admin menu. Under the admin menu here, this is where your services prices are defined. You can also set up your wizards in here. Wizards are a bit more complicated. We'll go over that in just a moment. To start, you'd enter your standard services submenu. In here, you will see a list of all of your currently active services. You'll see a variety of information associated with each service to start. In this case, you'll see the service name and code, the ID number, which is a backend number used on our side, the type or service type, which represents the department that you see it under, and some accounting information. If you look at one of our services, such as inserting, we'll be able to see the breakdown of why things are the way they are when we selected them. In this case, for this inserting service, you can see that the service has its name and code identified. It has a command action to launch a service wizard. When you select the service wizard for the command action, you'll be able to define which service wizard is selected. This list is controlled within the service wizards submenu. And again, we'll go over that in just a few minutes. Any service wizard begins its pricing by looking at the base price that's listed here. This is assumed to be the per piece price of your service. In addition to this, whether or not a wizard is involved, you can have a minimum price and a setup fee. The minimum price will look at the service, multiply its calculated base price, meaning the base price or the base price times wizard modifiers. They'll multiply that amount times the quantity on the order or estimate. And if that amount is not met, then this minimum price is utilized instead. Additionally, the setup fee is included. As described earlier, it breaks itself down by reverse calculating itself out of the quantity needed. The minimum price accounts for the base price, any wizard modifiers, and setup fee in this case. The volume pricing that you see here at the bottom can be used in such a way so that based on your quantities, you can have different percentage breaks for that line item. You can set up multiple volume breaks. And the system will automatically calculate in a volume price break based on the amount needed. For instance, in this case, 900 would not acquire a volume price break. But a quantity of 1200 would. That would take this 6%. A quantity of 2500 would take a look at this 8%. Do note that this percentage applies to the base price. It does not apply to the pricing adjustments within the wizards here. But the calculated price is what would be impacted. So if you have a 14 per 1,000 service price, it calculates itself up to $20 per 1,000 for the wizard, and then has an 8% discount. You would see that reflected. Now we can see that this wizard for the inserting service is set to load wizard number 9. We save and close out of this inserting service and enter our service wizards. We get a better understanding of how those work. We can see here a list of all of our wizards. Wizard number 9 is here. The way wizards work is that they will allow you to have a question or general setup. In this case, my inserting 102. Within the wizard, you can have a series of choices defined. Each choice will have a series of operation factors and operation values. We'll ignore the run rate for now, but we can see that the price expression and price variance are listed here. What these mean is that they will take the price of everything before it, in this case our 0.014 of our service, and based on our selection, it will add this new value in. In the case of our in-setting service, we have a 0.014 base price. If we were to pick the 9x12 envelopes choice, we would add in this 0.015 cost. I'm sorry, 0.05 price. And then this will be our new total going forward into the next operation. The next operation is the successor, and this is defined as number 10. So if we expand out number 10, we can see the next series of choices that will impact our pricing. You can see here that based on the amount of inserts we pick, our price increases. So if we were to pick 3 inserts, we can see that there is a addition of 0.002 cents. And because the successor is 0 on these, that indicates that there are no further options, and the price itself will calculate out accordingly. In this case now, we can see that our total price is 0.031 cents. This is our new base price, and if there's a volume price or setup fee that needs to kick in, they'll add in on top of this. These different service wizards can have different levels of operation. When creating options, you can fill out a new choice in this bottom gray row. These choices can include the run rate factors or expressions, but more importantly, the price expression, which can either be a flat add to the calculated price, perhaps a multiplier that allows you to, say, apply a markup of 20% by multiplying the current calculated price by 1.2. A subtract or divide, which allows you to adjust the price even further via those variables. And again, you would apply the price variance here, so that way, based on what your expression is, this is what's being referenced. You can include a variance input that allows you to type in a value manually. Or you can simply leave all options open, so that way your team can just pick the available option and have the price calculate itself for them. After you've filled out your choice information, you can define in which order you'd like it to appear by giving it a sort order number and a successor, which indicates the next wizard number that would be selected in the series. In our case here, we can leave it as 0 because there are no further options. But if you wanted to continue to a different wizard, you could select a new wizard number, or you could have it loop back into itself by picking the same wizard number that we're in this case 10, and fill out the options again. Once all that's done, you can edit your choices by clicking the edit button for each row and making any modifiers as needed, and clicking the Save This button to commit, or the Cancel button to remove your changes. And where we just created the options for each wizard, we can create a new wizard entirely by referencing this gray row here, which when filled out gives you the wizard number, the category, description, and instruction. These values up here are what you see at the top of the wizard to let your team know what it is they're selecting. And of course, these are your choices. So those are the core ways of handling how a service works at a basic level. You can set up a little bit of more in-depth pricing by looking at your customers. Each customer in the CRM can be given services within the pricing tab of their account. These can overwrite what you already have. In our case here, for my BJF Printing Company, we can see under the pricing tab that I do have all of my services selected with an 8% discount. This reflects the slight difference in price that we saw and the wizard details for each line item that we were in during our previous job. In this case, we do have everything pre-selected. So I'll enter a different job. I'm sorry, a different customer. We'll take a look at the pricing tab for them. Not that one. So in this case, for a customer that has not had any pricing applied to it yet, we'll be able to see a list of any of the services available through our admin menu in this dropdown here. If we pick it, we can see that the service base price and service minimum price for the service from the admin menu are referenced. We can create a new rate or base price to override what's listed here. Or we could create a discount percentage, which applies itself to the base price rather than the rate. Additionally, you can have a minimum price that overrides the service's base minimum price listed here. Meaning that at most you can either have a rate and minimum price or a discount and a minimum price. As we set these up, we can make it so that way our rate for this service will be slightly less. We'll give it a new minimum price as well. And for this, 70 rate, we'll just give a discount. Now in this case, we've applied a couple of changes, but you may want to do these to your services en masse. For instance, you're applying a loyalty discount to your customer. This can be achieved by clicking the Load All Services button to add every single service to the screen. Adding in a percentage discount and clicking the Apply Discount to All Services button. Once you do this, it asks if you're sure you want to do it. And when you click yes, it will turn any customer-specific rates to 0. If you do this, and you do want to keep an active rate on your services, you'll need to make sure to punch a new value in here. And if you're ever trying to set up a price and you're not sure why the wizard value is basing itself on a number that you can't quite identify, the rate here will offset the base price. So in the case of our inserting service here, this first number would be the new rate rather than this base price. Customer-specific pricing is often used for clients that have loyalty discounts or other contracts made for themselves. And they only kick into effect once you have that customer selected on a job. In addition, if you create a job for one customer, perhaps a template job, and you copy it and then change that customer to the one in question, the services will attempt to recalculate themselves. Additionally, if you set any templates up in the admin menu, that utilize our print calculator. Those templates can be built with services, and those services will take a look at the customer that's selected to make sure that they're pulling the correct price based on the customer before looking at any wizard options. So beyond service pricing and the customer level pricing, there is one further level of pricing, and that is our contract pricing. Contract pricing is a feature that does need to be enabled on your site. Once it is enabled, you can go into the contract pricing search screen within the CRM. And from this screen, you'll be able to either create new ones or modify pre-existing contracts. You need to enter one that already exists. You can simply click the blue text, or if you need to create a new one, you can click the green button up here. In creating a new contract, you need to select the customer that the contract falls under. Give your contract a name. Give it a type if wanted, and any other information up here at the top that you see relevant. Knowing that the most important thing is the active checkbox here, which determines whether or not your contract can be selected. Beyond this, you can go under the pricing tab and click the select button to pick any service that you want. And the services listed here, when selected, come in with a rate loaded in or a base price loaded in. This can be overridden and set up with a variety of other services. And can even be given quantity rates to base their calculations on. So that way they can perhaps retain the original pricing, but have a quantity break that applies to them and only them. Now, these services can be set up in two different ways. They can be set up in a way that looks at a specific contract and says only these services can appear on your job. Or they can be set up so that way, if selected, they'll override the original expected and customer expected price for that particular service. In the case of attempting to use a contract, to get it, you do need to select the customer that has that. In this case, our Voya account. When the customer has a potential contract, you can click this Attach Contract Pricing button, select the contract that you'd like to be involved, and click Save and Close to commit it. Once that's been applied, you can fill out your quantity and begin adding your services. You notice in this case that we do have many of our services available. But the price that was listed within our line item adjusted itself to the price that we typed in the contract. If you attempt to remove the contract, you can do so by unchecking and hitting the Save and Close button, but you'll be given a pop-out to warn you. In this case now, you can see that the original price has been referenced again. And if you were to select a contract when there's already services on the order, you'll be given a pop-up that lets you know that if you click yes or no, you'll be able to control how the contract pricing applies itself. Clicking yes will retroactively change the line item pricing to accommodate themselves based on the contract. And clicking no leaves everything as it is. This behaves much like the update quantity button that we saw here. Now, there are two other things to bear in mind in terms of estimates when it comes to looking at pricing. One convenient thing is that you can apply discounts to services within an estimate. This cannot be done for the entire estimate itself, but they can be done per department or service type. This can be done by clicking and adding in a discount percentage here and hitting the apply discount button. This is not a discount that can be traced, as in once you apply this, in this case 17.5% discount, we won't be able to see that we've applied a 17.5% discount, but the unit prices will be adjusted accordingly. Again, we can't see that the discount was applied, but we can see the service's original base price per the contract and what it is now. The useful method of relying on this discount is that you can set it to operate with a negative value, in this case simulating a markup percentage. In this case, if you have a negative discount, it is a markup, and clicking yes updates your prices accordingly. Again, that can't be seen, but it does update your prices as needed to. The other thing to bear in mind here is that if you have a service set up the way that you like and you wish to copy it, you can click this copy button. If you're using a service that has a wizard, all components of the wizard will copy with it. And if you're using a service that has one of our print calculators associated with it, then the pricing and the operation itself will copy. And then also any additional services or services like bindery and such that appear with that print line item as you're creating it will copy too, regardless of where they are in your order or estimate. Where you have this applied discount and markup percentage in estimates, it does not exist in orders, because our system assumes that once an order has been created from brand new creation or from extraction and export to an order from an estimate, the customers agreed on the pricing and you won't need to change things to that degree. We'll take a look at our admin menu for a few things related to pricing. In particular, under our global settings, we'll see that under here, there's the estimates and orders tab. Under the estimates and orders submenu tab, there are a couple of options, some of which control whether or not you have print estimating features set up, and others give you the idea of contract pricing and its rules. Specifically, you have the enable contract pricing service when checked, allows you to use contracts. And then you have these two. Only services associated with customer pricing can be selected on an estimate or order, and the same for contract pricing. When either of these are checked, our system will look for whether or not a customer has a contract applied for their estimate or order, or whether they simply have services available to themselves with overwritten pricing. If they are, then only those services will be visible for selection, and if they are not, then they will not clutter up the drop-down menus that you see on the estimate or order. The other feature that we'll see is that you have the ability to set up group billing on orders. And when group billing is turned on, you can set it to copy from job to job or not. Group billing is a pretty neat way to customize how invoices handle their information. It allows you to set up a line item in a variety of methods and have you, as the user, be able to combine your line items in certain ways to make it so that way they appear as you want them to on documentation that goes to your customer. A simple use case can be found under this new order. In here we have a couple of services. And if we were to load up one of our invoices, we can see that our line items are going to be listed one at a time with a broken down or nickel and dimed price defined for each service. Give you your grand total at the bottom. We do have a variety of invoices that allow you to display this information in a handful of ways. But if you need to change how it displays, you can under the quick links of the order. And this is only an order feature. Use the group billing. In here, you can create your groups. In this case, I'll create 2. In this case, I'll set up a book and other services group. Each one will have a quantity that references what the customer has ordered, and each will be set to price on a per piece level. I can pick which line items are associated with which group. And from here, we can see what our services would look like before and update the refresh button to see the after of how the prices themselves add together. In this case, again, if we take a look at our invoice price, we can see how everything was listed in a sort of nickel and dime fashion. But if we were to look up one of our group billing reports, we'll see in this case instead that we have our 2 groups that we've created, which calculate together for a unit price. This calculated unit price adds up to the grand subtotal that we see at the bottom. This covers pretty much everything for our print estimating module. Our pricing module. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us either by calling our team at 425-828-9495 extension 2, or by emailing us at support@printreach.com.